One of our subscribers asked, I would be curious to see you break down an urban scene. She says, as primarily a landscape artist, I find them somewhat daunting at times. Let's do a little breakdown. Well, there are many kinds of urban scenes. Most of them, when we think of urban scenes, we think of towns or cities, but there are other scenes too that we might classify as urban. They have one thing in common: bunches of buildings. And sometimes there'll be bunches of buildings with cars and people, all kinds of stuff. So if you have a scene like that and it's asking you to paint it, you might not know where to start. So this is what this subscriber is asking. How do you break this down? How do you get started so that if you want to make a painting from it, you can do so without getting all confused? Okay, so I've got an example here of an urban scene, and you see it is characteristic, except it doesn't have cars and bicycles or things like that we'll often see, but it has lots of small stuff. All these little windows, all these mini windows, and not so little. People going forth, back and forth, tables, flowers, all kinds of stuff. So what you have to do is to ignore all that stuff and break it down first of all, into big shapes. I would advise that you do some studies in your sketchbook or on Scrap to do this, to learn how to do this first, and always do these studies to get the sense of the thing in your mind before you start a painting. But let me show you just a little bit of in a cartoon fashion how you would go about that. Alright, so you take this scene, and when I say break it down into large shapes, you find those large shapes. There is no formula, there's no rule you can follow, but you find what you could call large shapes. Alright, so in this scene, we could take this entire area of buildings on this side, regardless of the people, regardless of the tables and the chairs and all that kind of stuff. We could just take this entire cluster of stuff right here, thinking in terms of buildings, and call that our first large shape. Then the next large shape could be this set of stuff over here, not buildings and lights and things like that. And then we have another large shape that would be in between that, which would be the walkway and then the stuff behind. So that would leave us those shapes. Now let me show you how you might go about doing that. Okay, I'll just make a rough format here on my whiteboard. So let's just say this would be where your format would be. Now, what we would, in this case, and every time you have buildings where you have sidewalks and you're looking down the sidewalk, you have buildings on either side, you're going to have a one-point perspective. So it's important when you have buildings like that, it's important that you know how to get the vanishing point. And we've got other quick tips on getting vanishing points in the horizon and that sort of thing. But let me show you why. All these buildings on this side, everything that is located horizontally is going to lean in the direction of the vanishing point. So if you get your buildings right, you got to know that. You need to know that ahead of time so that you'll make this top line and this bottom line vanish in the right place. Once you locate where the vanishing point is, then all those horizontal lines, the things that are horizontal to the pathway or the walkway itself, or road, or whatever it happens to be, all those are going to be tilted in that direction. So that will help you to form your shapes. If you know that, you can just look for the tilt of the line at the top and the tilt of the line at the bottom, and that tilt will always go to the vanishing point. So let's establish where the vanishing point is before we ever start. So, and you can use a ruler for this. There's nothing wrong with using a ruler when you're working stuff out. So if we take the ruler and we align it with this, you see how steep that tilt is? We'll line it right here, and we'll see that ends up placing us about right here. Now if we go to the other side and align right here, we can see that our vanishing point is about in this area right here. You only have to find the top and the bottom of one side or the top and the top of one side, or in other words, you only need to find two of those tilts in order to find the vanishing point. I've talked about that when I was talking about the horizon line. And then that ends up being where everything, all of these are going to tilt. So let's just place that, and you don't have to do a lot of measuring. You don't have to be exact. Wherever you place it is going to determine everything else. All right, now let's divide it into our shapes. We've placed that. We've got that a large areas over here for a large space over here for this larger shape, and then we've got a more narrow space over here for these narrow space shapes. So let's look how we break that down. Okay, we're going to ignore everything except the edges of the cluster of buildings. And that includes, we're going to ignore all this stuff. We're going to ignore all this stuff. We're just going to look at the edge of this building and where the building ends. Now, we see that the building ends about right here, and the vanishing point is about right here. So we can put a vertical right in here, and again, you don't have to be precise when you first do this. I make wobbly verticals when I'm drawing straight up and down like that. Okay, so that would be one vertical. That would be a vertical that would end up about right here. You could put other verticals in there if you want to, but I'll go ahead and we'll put in this vertical right here. That's just to help us get everything aligned. All right, so that one is a very narrow space between this and this, so we place a vertical. It doesn't matter where you begin it or where you end it. Man, that's wobbly. Let's see if I can do a little bit better job than that. I don't know what I'm going to cheat. I'll just do this. Okay, that makes it a lot easier. All right, so there's one vertical. Now, here we go. We're going to look at the edge of this building, and we're going to make the top of this, the edge of the top of these buildings tilt towards that vanishing point. It doesn't matter what we have right here, because we can make that work later. So here we go. Let me just turn this around. Here we go. Now, what we're looking for is the tops of those buildings to tilt. Now, let's see. Now, I have that edge. I've established that about right here. And so we can do this right here, and there we go. Okay, let's just, oh, here's the thing to do. Take the tilt from here. There we go. All right, now, so we'll make the top of that building tilt right here, and then we'll pick up, move down a little bit, and then this building tilts right here, and they all go to this point right there. You see what I've done there? I've made this one angle towards this point, and I've made this one angle towards that point. Now we're beginning to set our larger shapes. Now we'll come down here, and we'll do the same thing. And we'll say, about where does this begin? Well, we can say the line of the building begins about right here. That would be about right there. And so all that then tilts right here. So we'll just make this line move towards that tilt like that, and let's see, there's the vertical almost, so we go like this, so all got to move in that direction. Now we see something happening right here now that we have that, so we can take that away and just pull it over like that, and then we can get the corner. You see what I'm doing here? Corner of this building, that's this right here. So if you make that initial line of the entire mass of buildings, then if you have some, they have some space between them, and you see another line moving in this direction, then you can do that sort of thing. So now we've got that set. We have this large shape, and we consider this whole thing a large shape, and then all we need to do there, even if you want to now, you can see that these seem to be pretty much aligned with each other. Let's see, like that, and that seems to begin about right here. And so then you could do that sort of thing where it's going to move in that direction. So you could make those edges, just create those edges like this. That tells you where that's going to be located, and you don't make the line go all the way to the vanishing point. That's just a point to help you locate this stuff. Okay, then we would go on this side. You're going to be very surprised on this side at how much angle you'll have because you barely can see. Your eyes are making that angle really, really, really steep. So we see that these begin about right here. And let's see, I need to bring that over really to get that steeper angle. So that does that. So there we go right here, and that would give us more of a location of those buildings right here. There we go right there, and then we'll find that these, okay, the vertical. Let's see, stop that back there. Didn't mean to make that line go all the way. The vertical back here is longer, so we'll just pick up that vertical. Pick up that vertical right here and then make it just a little bit longer. And then we see that it tilts way up there. Sort of like that. Okay? So we can tilt that, and it needs to always be tilted towards, no matter where you put it, it needs to be tilted towards this point right here. Alright, from that point, you can even take the point, well, better keep that point. Now you have the large shapes. You have the shapes on this side. This is, call these little packages, little containers for all this stuff. So you have all the stuff on this side, you have all the stuff on this side, and you have this space for all the stuff that belongs right in here. So you're all set now. We've broken it down. You're all set, and you could just begin. You could begin right here, and we're not going to take the entire quick tip now to begin to fill in these spaces, because once you get the large shapes broken down and placed, then you should be able to go in and fill in the details easy enough. And when you do that, you take one set of details at a time. So you might go with this set of buildings right here, and the first thing you'd want to do is to break that down into the various divisions of the building. Or you might do it that way. There are other ways to do it too. So you might see, okay, that one shows about this much, so you might go something like this. That divides that building, and then you see it comes on over here. This one you see just a little bit more of, so you might divide that one sort of like this, sort of like that, and then and you can see this pretty much takes all that space. From that point, then you could begin to put in the major horizontal lines, and that's where you go back to this, because these lines that will be located right here, no matter where they are, they're going to tilt to right there. So you just create those lines as you see them, and that would be a major line that would go there. And even if anything is located here, it's going to tilt. Now as I bring my ruler down, as you have the lines coming further down like this, let me move this out of the way. Okay, you have the lines coming further down, then those lines still, no matter what they are, if they're windows, say window, window, top of window, top of window, top of window, and then that goes up a little bit, and you have those windows above like this, top of window, like that, and then you might have another set of windows in line with that. All these tilt right here, so if you do that with a ruler or a straight edge, you can always get it right. Wherever in this building here, you might have windows located in a different place, so that may be the top of a line of windows there. Then the bottom of a line of windows might be like that, like that. Then as the bottom of the windows would go, so they're coming on down right here, and that gets below, this is vanishing point, of course, you know, the horizon line. This is the vanishing point, so that means that these tilt up, and we look at that and we can see, yes, indeed they do. And so you could come down to get the bottoms of those windows, and they would just, this set would tilt this way. This one tilts this way. This one tilts this way. This one tilts this way, and so on and so on. You just allow, wherever the bottom of the window is, you allow it to tilt in the direction, or go in the direction of this mark you've made. And then from that point, you only have to put in your verticals. So you acknowledge, you see where the verticals are, and you see how narrow they are. So some of them are narrow, and some of them are wider. And so you pay attention to that. Allow your eyes to guide you as to whether a window is going to be narrow or wider. And all these lines are going to be vertical. So vertical, and then it'll match this one. So if you have any tendency to tilt those, don't do it. unless sometimes there are lines tilted when a shape is moving in another direction. But get the big ones first. And you can see if you put in the major shapes of the buildings first, then you can begin to decide what to leave out, because a lot of times you don't want to put in all of this stuff. You just want to put in enough to express what's getting your attention about the scene. So you may not want to put in all these wires and stuff. So once you get the major structure established, you do the same thing on this side, having all those lines that are parallel to the street vanishing or tilted in this direction right here. Then you can use a size method for putting the other stuff in. And how would you do that? Well, you can simply say, okay, how far does this come up to here, from here to here, in line with these windows? Well, you can see that it comes up about right here, in alignment with those windows, those tables do, and then you would catch their vanishing point the same way. These are horizontal, as you can see. So this is a major shape right here, and then all this little stuff gets broken down inside of it. So the point is, you take one step at a time, one large area, or breaking the whole thing down into about 3, 4, maybe 5 large areas, and you determine what those large areas are going to be. As I said, there are no rules about this. And then take each one of those, and within each large area, begin to break down what's inside of that. And if you start, if there are lots of windows there, if you start with the windows, that gives you more references for putting in even the smallest stuff. As you continue to move along, allow the scene to guide you as to where things go, and then start making decisions about what are these things doing to your composition. Are they adding? Are they making it junky? If they're making it junky, you don't need it in there. Or are they adding to the composition? Do you need to move stuff around? If you need to move these figures around, then you would move them around and they would become larger in comparison. You see what I'm doing there? They're smaller as they get back here, and they get larger in our purview as they get to the front. So if you wanted to move them forward, you could. If you wanted to move them back, then you would make them a little shorter as you move them back, but putting them in the same reference as far as the finishing point goes, as we have everything else. Okay, now if you have any other questions about that, leave them in the comments section, and I'll try to address them. But I hope I've given you enough there to go on. The best way to learn how to do this stuff is to practice it, and I think maybe the best way to learn to practice it is to do it from photographs first. So go on pixabay.com. You can type in urban landscape or towns and cities or something like that, and you'll find there are a lot of they're not copyrighted photos, uncopyrighted photos there that you can use to study these principles with. Learn it first with photos so that you'll know what to look for and build your confidence, and then go out into an urban landscape and practice it. Break it down, larger shapes to smaller, and then smaller and smaller, and be then making your decisions about what needs to stay and what needs to go. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianeMize.com, where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.